we're very happy today to be able to welcome Maurice Carney from the Friends of the Congo and David Sullivan from the Enough Project and the SICE Alumni Association. I don't know if you're a member of the association, but you're certainly an honorary member of the association, one of our proud alums. And they're going to be taking on a set of issues that are somewhat distinctive in the context of previous talks and presentations that we've hosted over the last couple of years. Many of the analysts that we have welcomed here have been academics who've taken an analytical perspective on various political and economic aspects and conflict management aspects of the situation in DRC. However, one set of voices which have been absent, not the only, but one, and we're trying to get them all in, are the NGO community. And obviously, the conflict in DRC has been called by many people Africa's First World War, implying and signaling that there has been a widespread international engagement, involvement, and intervention in the conflict in the Congo, with all of its very dire human and economic and political consequences. And many of the external parties that have been involved in the conflict have gone in for geopolitical agendas, for security agendas, and of course for economic agendas. In addition to many of the neighboring countries and non-official or non-national forces that have been involved in the Congo, obviously there are a number of economic actors, the international organizations, especially the UN, and a variety of bilateral actors, and humanitarian organizations. So there's a whole range of different external groups that are part of this scenario and part of the landscape. And today we're going to hear from two representatives from US-based NGOs, but also NGOs that are involved in the situation on the ground, engaged with civic actors in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in varying degrees, whether it's on elections, whether it's on the question of conflict minerals or human rights or other related issues. And they're going to reflect on both the role of external actors and the specific, should we say, imperatives of the NGO community. So without any further delay, I'll turn over the panel to our speakers, and I think by mutual agreement, Maurice Carney is going to speak first. So welcome, Mr. Carney, and then David Sullivan will follow up, and then we can do Q&A.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And I'd like to thank Johns Hopkins for inviting Friends of the Congo to be a part of this series. What I will share with you is the Broadway, the foundation and the framework that informs our advocacy as a nonprofit. Friends of Congo has been working on the Congo issue as a formal entity since 2004, and each of the founders have been involved in the Congo since the mid-1990s, before, during the Mobutu era. So, Congo itself, Congo really represents the extremes. It's emblematic of the extremes that are on the African continent. On one hand, you have extreme tragedy. 1885 to 1908, anywhere from 10 to 15 million people lost their lives. 1996 to the present, estimates say that up to 6 million people have lost their lives. Hundreds of thousands of women being systematically raped as a strategy of war. So that's the extreme tragedy. You also have extreme, on the other hand, in terms of potential. Congo has enormous potential. has the agricultural capacity to feed the entire world through 2050, when the world's population will be estimated to be 9 billion people. Has the hydroelectric capacity to light up the entire African continent, provide electricity for the continent of Africa, have some left over to export to Southern Europe and even the Middle East. That's why the Italians were in the Congo in 2007, meeting with the Congolese to see how they can get electricity in Italy cheaper than they're paying for it now. So, enormous extremes. And it's often presented in a mysterious fashion, the Congo that is, or in a complicated way. So what I hope to do is, to some degree, demystify the Congo and deconstruct the complexity so that you have tools that can inform your research, inform your advocacy, inform policy. And in these tools, we have 5 core principles or themes that we operate on. 1, Congo's challenge since the modern founding in the Berlin Conference or the Congo Conference in 1885 has been to determine its own affairs. That's been the central challenge for the last 125 years. The nation itself was formed at a meeting in Berlin, not in the Congo, where European nations, the United States came together to establish their spheres of influence on the African continent. Excellent source to see what was taking place at this time is Thomas Pakenham's Scramble for Africa, or even to get a sense of the pending conflict that Europeans were trying to avoid. You could read David Leonard Lewis's work, Race to Fashada. So, the Congo's challenge has been to determine its own affairs. Even in 1908, when there was an international outcry because of the brutal rule by King Leopold II, Congo, when it was taken from King Leopold II, or when King Leopold II sold it, it was sold to the Belgian state, not to the Congolese people. So, today, in the global movement that is burgeoning, it's not the first. There was already an international movement in the early 1900s, and Congo, that didn't result in Congo being turned over to the Congolese. That's why we say today, at the end of this movement, or a marker for success, is for the affairs of the Congo to be determined by the people of the Congo. So that's 1, in terms of the principles. The affairs of the Congo have not been determined by the people of the Congo. 2, Congo has been caught in the midst of a geostrategic battle. Right? The crucible of its founding in 1885 was a result of geostrategic intrigue. Even as late as today, just recently in 2009, Congo established as an independent state one of the largest deals, if not the largest, on the African continent, a $9 billion deal with the Chinese. A mineral for infrastructure swap. Chinese would get cobalt and copper. Congolese get roads, railway, hospitals, schools. That was the nature of the deal. However, the deal didn't sit too well with the International Monetary Fund. So the International Monetary Fund shielded the Congolese government that if you want to be funded, your government to be funded, your government operations to be funded, and if you want to qualify for HIPIC, heavily indebted poor countries, you're going to have to renegotiate this deal. So the battle played out on the pages of the Financial Times. The Chinese are saying, well, IMF was blackmailing the Congolese government. IMF was saying that the deal was debt-laden. But the point is, it was played out on the international scene, and the Congolese had very little to say. It was a geostrategic battle taking place as to what was going to occur in the Congo. So that's the second theme, caught in a geostrategic battle. 3, Congo's challenge has been both internal and external. So, Congolese haven't been able to control their own affairs since its modern founding. In 1960, they finally had the opportunity to control their own affairs. And they elected, democratically, the first Prime Minister, Patrice Emery Lumumba. He stood up and he said, "We've suffered personal rule under King Leopold II and slavery or forced labor, Belgian colonialism. We want the wealth of the Congo to be utilized for the interests of the Congolese people and for Africa at large." By virtue of his making that stance, it didn't sit well with the Western powers. So within weeks, he was deposed, and within months, he was assassinated, January 17, 1961. But this wasn't just the assassination of an elected leader. As Ludo DeWitt stated in his assassination of Lumumba, which is a good source to consult on this matter, that it represented a setback for the entire African continent, which is corroborated by Kwame Nkrumah's work, The Challenge of the Congo, where he had established a deal with Lumumba for the Congo to serve as the economic engine for his concept of the United States of Africa. But the assassination also represented the crushing of the democratic aspirations of the Congolese people, which has been embodied in people like Simon Kimbangu, who fought against Belgian colonialism, spent more time in prison than Nelson Mandela from 1921 to 51, trying to create democratic space, independence for the Congolese people. So the assassination of Lumumba crushed the aspirations of the people, the democratic aspirations of the people. And it wasn't just the assassination, but the Western powers imposed, right, Joseph Desiré Mobutu, brutal dictator, and also maintained them in power. Not for one term, 4 years in the American presidency, or 2 terms, but for 3 decades. 3 decades. As the Congolese fought to reclaim democratic space, every time they were on the verge of being successful, the US, Western powers would come in and crush the rebellion movements, right? So, the challenge of the Congo is both internal and external, and it remains that way to this day. That same democratic spirit got a reawakening in the early 1990s in what they call the National Sovereign Conference, where democratic forces mobilized and organized to resist the Mobutu dictatorship. But in the final analysis, what got the support in removing Mobutu from power was an invasion by Rwanda and Uganda in 1996, where they installed Laurent Desiré Kabila. They quickly fell out, and then Rwanda and Uganda invaded again in 1998. And this is what led to the so-called First African World War, and led to millions of people dying. But they did this with the backing of Western powers, with their support. If you read a good work by Timothy Reed, Killing Them Softly, Harvard, Kennedy School of Government, he lays out how it is that Western tacit support facilitated the invasions of Rwanda and Uganda. And another good work is L'Africa Morceau by Jean Altari, who's worth consulting. So we see that the democratic aspirations of the Congolese people have not been supported over the years. Now, we find that after periods of decades of slavery, forced labor, decades of colonialism, the assassination of an elected leader, the rule of a brutal dictatorship, the invasions from from neighbors, and wars. So you have wars, slavery, forced labor, colonialism, assassinations. At the end of the day, what this has worked to do is to destroy or eviscerate the African institutions. The Congolese institutions, whether you're talking about the state, whether you're talking about military, whether you're talking about civil society, the institutions have been laid to bear. So that leaves Congo open for either natural or human disasters. Much like we see in the case of Haiti, where its institutions have been totally destroyed, so that invading forces in Congo can have a free reign. So when we talk about internal challenges and external challenges, one of the key internal challenges of the Congo is organizational deficiency. That is, the organizations are not strong enough to protect the interests of the people. So, the fourth item in terms of, or principle, in terms of understanding the Congo and using it to inform research, policy, advocacy, activism, is that Congo is critical to the future of the African continent. It sits right in the heart, literally and figuratively in the heart of Africa, bordered by nine other countries, population of 65 million, the size of Western Europe. Obama said that if Africa is to achieve its promise, resolving the problem in the Congo will be critical. Former South African President Thabo Mbeki said, there is no new Africa without a new Congo. So it's vital to the future of the African continent. And fifth, in terms of understanding the Congo, Congo has enormous potential, which I laid out at the start of my talk. Part of the second largest rainforest in the world, vital to the fight against climate change, has minerals, so all known metals, key to the automotive industry of the West, key to the technology industry, key to the electronics industry, key to the aerospace industry, key to the military industry. That's why the Congressional Budget Office in the early 1980s said Congo's cobalt is vital to our geostrategic interests, to our military and aerospace industries. So, those are the 5 principles which inform our advocacy. 1, the affairs of the Congo have not been determined by the people of the Congo. 2, Congo is caught in a geostrategic battle. 3, Congo's challenge is both internal and external. 4, Congo is central to the future of the African continent. And 5, Congo has enormous potential. Now, we're here today. You're not supposed to know this. You're not supposed to know that Congo even exists or care about Congo. It was called the Empire of Silence. Joseph Conrad called it the heart of darkness. There are no redemptive values in the people. It's always been wars and tribal killings and from time immemorial. So, the way we look at Congo is not through a pathological prism. We don't believe that the charity or the humanitarian prism sufficiently explains what's happening in Congo and can birth prescriptions that can make a difference. We do not believe that the genocide or atrocity prism serves Congo. And that's not going to give you a full understanding of what the challenges are and the prescriptions that will come out of it. With all due respect to my colleague Dave, we do not believe that the conflict mineral approach even comes close to addressing the core elements of what needs to be dealt with in the Congo. We believe a comprehensive overview is required, a comprehensive approach that's grounded in justice. So our effort, our mobilizing effort, our organizing efforts are based on a social justice framework and prism. We're calling for justice for the Congo. And the groups that we're working on the ground with, they're mobilizing inside the Congo around a social justice agenda. So, for us outside, how do we support that? And as I bring it to a close, the social justice agenda. One, definitely, learn more about the Congo, educate yourself about the Congo, because in doing that, you're valuing the lives of fellow human beings. We're talking about the deadliest conflict in the world since World War II. What is a scar on the conscience of humanity? Nearly 6 million people dead. And Médecins Sans Frontières says that Congo has been in the top 10 most underreported stories for the last decade. Can you imagine nearly 6 million people dying in Europe and it being underreported? So, there's a need to value black life, value African life, value human life. And as Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So if we're justice-seeking people, we'll be concerned about what's transpiring in the Congo. So educate yourself, inform yourself, lobby for policies whereby the United States can be engaged differently. The United States is engaged, has been engaged. It's the first nation in the world to recognize Congo under the private ownership of King Leopold II. It took nearly if you compare it to Haiti, for example, when they won their independence, there was an embargo put on the Haitians for nearly 6 decades by the U.S. So, the request is that the U.S. be engaged differently. Be engaged on a diplomatic front, aggressively, by elevating the profile of the Congo, lay out a political framework, as opposed to a military framework that is the Obama administration is carrying on from the Bush administration. Hold its corporations accountable, not just the electronics companies, but the mining companies, Freeport McMoran, OM Group, right? Kemet Corporation, Resource Capital. Hold those corporations that have been listed by the United Nations, in several studies, accountable. Now, we know that diplomacy can work. How do we know that? Because in 2008, when the United Nations published this report on Rwanda's involvement in the Congo and supporting proxy groups, the CNDP, National Congress for the Defense of the People, headed by Laurent Nkunda, Sweden and Netherlands withheld aid from Rwanda. And only months earlier, Paul Kagame had given an interview to Colette Brackman of Le Libre Belgique, stating that he has nothing to do with the Congo, he's washing his hands of the Congo. But as soon as the heat came on, international pressure, we saw that the rebel group was dismantled and integrated into the Congolese army, and the rebel leader was quote-unquote arrested. Unfortunately, the British, the US, didn't pick up on that diplomatic push. I believe we would have had a different situation today if they would have done that, holding Rwanda accountable. So, calling on the administration to be engaged differently, as I've outlined, is a key way for us to help make a difference on the outside. And finally, supporting local institutions. Because in the final analysis, no matter what we do from the outside, it's up to the Congolese to make the final difference. And the degree to which we can support the Congolese in strengthening the capacity of their institutions so that they can defend their interests is the same degree to which we're going to have stability and peace that is enduring and not symptomatic prescriptions that only maintain the problem and maintain the current structural relationships that exist between the Congo and the rest of the world. So thank you so much for providing us with the opportunity to share with you, and I look forward to the dialogue and exchange.